Men are free to claim to be women and swim in swimming pools. You're not free to claim trophies in a women's sports competition.
Right, but see, that distinction is elementary in terms of a logical dichotomy. To her, it's advanced calculus. But this level of dialogue that we've reached, guys, is not the priority of the left. They're not practiced in being here because they never prioritize it. What they prioritize instead is the demonization of any person that is not a part of their group so that they can say, this is a bad person, therefore I don't have to listen or contend with anything they have to say. This is how you see low IQ degenerate women who can't articulate a single argument thinking narcissistically and frankly psychopathically that they are somehow better than others, such that they can smile and smirk while being surrounded by a bunch of people who are scorning her for being low IQ and not being able to articulate an argument. Because she's been indoctrinated in college to only see the world in terms of power disparities, not decipher it in terms of logic, reason, rationality, to understand the objective nature of any system or reality. Instead, she's been fed a one-dimensional analysis of oppressor-oppressee, where ideas have so little weight in comparison to adherence to the cult that they're essentially meaningless, and being asked to articulate them is the same as being asked to engage in theater, almost perversely enough, in an act of bad faith. Because in the left, who asks you to engage in ideas? You're a good person just as a result of saying the right lines, identifying with the correct identity, and acknowledging other people's identity, and attributing to them the correct amount of counterfeit virtue as a result of their hypothetical victimhood. She's in foreign territory. That doesn't mean she's done trying to invert truth. Charlie Kirk was doing one of his events on a college campus, and he was approached by this girl who initially just started to ad hominem him. But I didn't realize until a couple minutes in the video that Vivek Ramaswamy was sitting right next to him, a presidential candidate, in my opinion, maybe the most competent person on the debate stage, who I thought should have been the vice president. But what you see here is crystallized degenerate femininity to such a T. I'm surprised that this wasn't like some sort of script. Apparently, this girl tries to flash the camera to get him banned after failing to engage in debate, after saying that Charlie and Vivek aren't engaging in substantive ideas when she can't engage in substantive ideas. It's bizarre. Okay, so let's just start at the beginning. You guys are not going to believe this.
Do you feel proud of yourself for debating college kids who are unprepared to...
I'm going to analyze every single aspect of this, guys, because this is insane. Okay, so first of all, she is dressing like a slut, and her voice is masculine. So already we know she's a destroyed female, likely ravaged by the ideology of feminism and the left. Surrounded by clearly relatively put together men that are her same age and in her same geographical location, so the juxtaposition is very interesting.
Speak in front of an audience like yourself. Hold on. You're 30 years old. We can agree you're 30 years old, right?
Bro, what is that? We can agree you're 30 years old. So what you're seeing here is the confirmation that proclivity to abide in left-wing authoritarianism is positively correlated with a feminine temperament and low verbal IQ. She doesn't realize she's doing this. She doesn't realize she's proving exactly what I'm saying in real time, or she wouldn't be doing it. But pay close attention. You're seeing and manifested in front of you a low verbal IQ.
Hold on. You're 30 years old. We can agree you're 30 years old, right? Do you think that's...
She thinks that that's some sort of insult. In fact, Charlie Kirk is a famous multimillionaire at 30 years old, who's at the heart of one of the most pivotal political movements of all time.
It's a little bit silly.
Are you a voter?
I am a voter. I'm a registered voter.
I vote and you vote. So I'm talking to voters of this country that will determine the future of Western civilization.
Bro, he owns her so beautifully.
That's what I'm doing here today. Yeah? Wait, hold on. How is it any different than a professor talking to you?
Than a professor talking to you?
Yeah, it's an amazing point.
Who are you?
Well, important enough for you to come up to a microphone.
Bro, look at her face.
Who are you?
Well, important enough for you to come up to a microphone.
What's utterly brutal is that she's trying to engage in this emotional level of degenerate femininity, and she's still getting obliterated. That's really got to hurt, because obviously she doesn't have access to her cognitive faculties, reason, rationality, or she would already be debating ideas. But even when you see the blank expression go across her face, and then it become contorted with the resentment of her emotional female psychopathology, she still loses. And that alone would make this an incredible video, but it gets better.
Well, important enough for you to come up to a microphone.
Actually, when I first saw this ad, I thought...
And it's bizarre because she's surrounded by guys that are proving that what he's doing is important.
It was like an improv comedy thing. It looked so ridiculous that I didn't even think it was real.
Bro, the self-awareness and lack of social ability is bordering on some sort of disability, right? Because she's surrounded by people that are agreeing with Charlie.
Well, no, you could see. Look how popular Trump is on your campus. How does that make you feel?
Bro, look at her. She's obliterated right now. Look at that. Look at that.
Trump is on your campus. How does that make you feel?
Dude, think about that. Think about the fact that she approached, thinking that she wouldn't get obliterated and owned, and then this happens. Meanwhile, she's laughing like narcissistically. This is quintessential mental
Trump
illness.
is on your campus. How does that
But it's politically induced, ideologically induced mental illness. That's why it's interesting.
make you feel?
Charlie's brilliantly now engaging on the level of emotion, since she's proven in her ad hominems that she's only able to engage in emotion. So that's where he went, and he's like, so how does that make you feel that Trump is so popular on your campus? Which I must say is a very impressive pivot.
That's not comedy. That is a 5-alarm fire for Kamala Harris, because she's probably going to lose Pennsylvania.
Look,
But no, I just want to be clear. Is there something wrong
Bro,
with
look at all the guys mocking her.
talking to voters?
no, there's nothing wrong with talking.
Well, that's what we're doing here today. It's an open mic.
I think that you push a dangerous agenda.
Such as?
Her first opportunity to engage in ideas. Holding her Starbucks latte, bro, while she supports like communism. It doesn't get more quintessential.
Dance on
Low verbal IQ, cognitively ravaged by the resentment of the left, demonizing reality, clearly disconnected from masculinity.
abortion rights, for example.
Here we go. Okay, so
Let me ask a question. What is your name?
Gene.
Gene, and what is your understanding of the current Republican Party's stance on
This is so coherent, it's beautiful. Watch.
federal intervention in abortion?
Well, I know that they want to bring it back to the states, right?
So the Republican Party's current stance on abortion is they're against a federal ban on abortion.
I do
And we're
understand
talking about
that,
a
yes.
presidential election as the
Yes.
important election that we're talking about here.
I understand that, yes.
Great. So again, I think this open dialogue is great. I think it's great you're here challenging Charlie, and I think it's great that he's willing to travel campus
He's being a bit too generous here because she actually isn't challenging him. She engaged in ad hominems, but he corrects himself here. Watch.
across this country to talk to the next generation. We need more conversation. Now, where's the disagreement, though, on content? Because you can criticize style or why you're talking to people
Listen,
or dunk
my-
on someone personally, but where do you actually disagree with
I
the
agree
Even though Charlie dunked on her. How does it feel? Pennsylvania's going red.
instance?
with the way that you edit content and specifically frame it so that people look bad talking to you.
He hasn't edited anything.
The way
All of this has been in context. There hasn't been one single cut. I've probably done more cuts in this video than Charlie has in the last 10 videos he's done.
that you edit your content.
we post unedited content.
Let me just ask you one thing, though.
So he makes another attempt at getting something, an inkling, an iota of a rational thought out of her head, eyes spaced unreasonably far apart.
personal insults can fly in all directions. Where is an area where you have a disagreement with the conservative movement, with Donald?
Really what you're seeing is just a node of what the left-wing ideology is. You can tell that she's mentally wrecked. She doesn't have ideas. Everyone around her is laughing at her. But what you're seeing is what the left-wing ideology does to people, especially women.
Donald Trump, with Charlie Kirk, perhaps with myself. I was a presidential candidate last year. I think we need to talk about that more in the open. And the more we do, the stronger our country is going to be. We got a long line of people, but I want to hear from you one substantive area where you have an authentic disagreement, and I'd be glad to address it. I'm
Bro,
sure
think of the opportunity that she's being given right now. First of all, she's talking to a famous millionaire, Charlie Kirk, who's, again, at the center of the most pivotal political movement, maybe in the history of the world. And she's also talking to a billionaire presidential candidate. And this is the best she can muster. And by the way, the reason that's relevant is because her inability to grasp that or appreciate it shows her disconnection with reality.
Charlie would too.
just in any
Anything.
political.
Relating to any political topic where you have a disagreement. Let's air it.
Okay. I disagree with some of the laws that are being pushed in Congress that are against the LGBTQ community and
Such as?
the trans community.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm going to give you my view, and then I want to hear yours.
Okay.
My view is that if you're a fully grown adult, 18 or above, you're free to live how you want, dress how you want, marry who you want if you want.
Okay, so we finally made it to the level of dialogue. This video isn't even 50% of the way heated up yet in terms of the degeneracy we're going to see from her. And it took him essentially talking to her as if she was a toddler to get her to articulate even the beginnings of some sort of disagreement. Not even an articulated disagreement because she didn't say what the laws are that she didn't like. But this level of dialogue that we've reached, guys, is not the priority of the left. They're not practiced in being here because they never prioritize it. What they prioritize instead is the demonization of any person that is not a part of their group so that they can say, this is a bad person, therefore I don't have to listen or contend with anything they have to say. This is how you see low IQ degenerate women who can't articulate a single argument thinking narcissistically and frankly psychopathically that they're somehow better than others, such that they can smile and smirk while being surrounded by a bunch of people who are scorning her for being low IQ and not being able to articulate an argument. Because she's been indoctrinated in college to only see the world in terms of power disparities, not decipher it in terms of logic, reason, rationality, to understand the objective nature of any system or reality. Instead, she's been fed a one-dimensional analysis of oppressor, oppressee, where ideas have so little weight in comparison to adherence to the cult that they're essentially meaningless, and being asked to articulate them is the same as being asked to engage in theater, almost perversely enough, in an act of bad faith. Because in the left, who asks you to engage in ideas? You're a good person just as a result of saying the right lines, identifying with the correct identity, and acknowledging other people's identity, and attributing to them the correct amount of counterfeit virtue as a result of their hypothetical victimhood. She's in foreign territory. That doesn't mean she's done trying to invert truth.
If you're over the age of 18.
I agree.
But you are not free to indoctrinate children in schools who are not yet of the age of consent. You are not free, just as you're a 17-year-old or a 15-year-old can't get a tattoo on their own, I don't think that you should be able to go or until the age of 18. And so the lines that I draw...
That word was castration, by the way.
...here is that men are free to claim to be women and swim in swimming pools. You're not free to claim trophies in a women's sports competition.
Right, but see, that distinction is elementary in terms of a logical dichotomy. To her, it's advanced calculus. Because again, she's never been asked to engage on that level. And what she's doing here is maybe 10% of her brain's trying to follow what he's saying, but the rest of her is just trying to demonize him, because demonizing him is so much easier than the difficult computation of trying to understand words and what they mean and their symmetry with ideas and the universe. It's much easier to demonize him and then not contend with what he has to say than make sense of his ideas. Future cat mom right here you're looking at.
You're not free to enter a women's locker room, you're not free to change a language, and you're not free to actually indoctrinate our children who are under the age of 5 in schools. Do we agree on the fact that adults should be able to live freely while still treating children differently? If so, we're on the same side of this issue.
Dude, Vivek is so utterly competent. It's incredible he's able to speak so extemporaneously without everything being written up beforehand. Only Jordan Peterson, myself, and a couple other people I've seen are able to do that.
Listen, I agree with the majority of what you said. However, I don't...
Dude, that was... I'm going to play that again.
Listen, I agree with...
You saw some psychopathic mental illness going on right there, because it was very narcissistic.
The same side of this issue.
Listen, I agree with the majority of what you said. However, I don't think that you're understanding the
idea that she's here to educate him is, of course, the epitome of inverting truth.
The implications of the laws that are trying to be passed.
Look, we got a head start in the conversation. We got a long line behind you. But my only ask is, forget the personal attacks or the stylistic attacks. Focus on substance. The more we debate that, the stronger we're going to be as a country. Thank you.
And credit to Vivek for ending things that way. But she's not able to accept that because she's being judged objectively. Look at her face. She's not able to accept that. Degenerate femininity is the mark of abiding in left-wing authoritarianism.
For coming.
Thank you.
I don't think you're focusing on substance, though. That's the issue.
Hold on.
Okay, so he's just, instead of responding, he's laughing because it's so self-evidently absurd. It's even absurd in her own mind as she's saying the words, given that he had to evoke substance from her and then she failed to even provide that. And he provided coherent, logical, rational substance in such a competent format that you'd think it was some sort of presidential speech.
Look, he intentionally tried to provoke substance out of you. And you said, well, I'm worried about some laws Congress should pass. I have to ask, what laws are you talking about?
So she's being challenged now. Okay, so you say that we're not engaging in substance after we gave an utterly coherent, logical synopsis and robust viewpoint that is rooted in morality and logic. You have said you don't like abstract laws that you can't even name. Well, let's see. Can you even engage with the first level? Do 2% of what he just did.
Can you be specific?
I'm sorry, I'm very nervous, but this is what you do. This is what you do. You take people and you put them under the spotlight and you...
Well, hold on. I didn't
Yeah, you approached him.
ask you to come up here. You voluntarily came to the front of the line.
Right, meaning that you have something to share, but what you had to share was incoherent slander, nonsense, and feminine degeneracy, now that you've been put into a space where the expected outcome is logic, you're floundering.
You didn't have to
But you were floundering before, which is very embarrassing, of course, too.
do that.
You're purposely antagonizing people on campus, asking
How?
people to come up by spreading your weird agenda.
How?
Weird that she's surrounded by people that support Trump, and clearly the weirdest one here. And again, she approached him. It's beyond bizarre, but when a woman is held accountable rather than admitting to accountability, which is what you see over and over again in all of my video analysis, they demonize reality in accordance with the left-wing instinct.
Oh. What agenda is that? I'm confused, though.
So Charlie, I'll say this. We'll end on this and we'll go to the next question.
By the way, I haven't finished this video, and the title has me like worried and freaked out because it's clear that this girl has mental issues, right? But I'm curious how serious her mental issues are. I'm sure you are thinking the same thing. I don't know what is about to happen. I don't know if I can put it on YouTube. We'll find out together. I've only watched up to about 10 seconds before this moment.
When I was 18, and I'm not going to blame you for this, I also took for granted a lot of the stuff that the media force-fed me, because that's what you know at the age of 18. You say there are some vague laws making their way through Congress that are hostile to the trans community. I don't think those laws actually exist.
So she's trying to interrupt a billionaire presidential candidate right now, just to be clear, after everything she just exhibited.
I don't blame you if that's what the cable media is feeding you.
Okay, again, listen to me. Billionaire, listen to me. Presidential candidate, billionaire. Listen to me. 18-year-old girl that has proven she's unable to engage with elementary level logic or coherent premises.
But let's get to the specifics, and then we're able to...
Oh, wow, look at her face. Okay, so she is mentally ill.
...actually have an open dialogue, and that's one of the things I've learned over the last 20 years.
I think that the issue is we're getting our media from different sources. Both people are getting media from these skewed sources. The facts that
He just represented literally the Republican agenda, and then she said that she agreed with it logically, but disagreed with it overall, and didn't explain why.
Presenting are not always correct.
And that's why we're here with no TV screens between us. So people who have policy-based substantive disagreements, we invite those. I think that's how we're going to get our country back. And as it relates to trans, which you brought up, 18 or above, you're free to live how you want. You're not free to force that onto somebody else, or especially kids. And if we agree on that, we make some progress. Thank you.
Disagreements, yeah.
This is the...
So it must be right there. It must be behind this overlay. Wow, people in the comments are just eviscerating her, roasting her. Nice. I would add on top of this, you're also seeing psychopathic tendencies that are ideologically induced. I don't think that she would necessarily act as if she's a psychopath if she was not indoctrinated by the left to believe she's a good person with no proof of being a good person. That is classically the trait of a narcissistic psychopath, especially narcissism, believing that you are tremendously important without evidence for believing you are tremendously important. Oh, it's after she said, I missed it. When she said she was nervous, that's when it was? Okay, let's go back to there.
To claim trophies, indoctrinate our children who are this issue.
I don't think that you're understanding the...
We got a long line behind you, but my only ask is...
He intentionally tried to provoke substance. What laws are you talking about?
Oh, there it is. Okay, wow. I can't believe I missed that. Wow. That's crazy. Okay, so she is mentally ill. I mean, there's not that much there. There's not that much going on, so either mentally or physically, if you know what I'm saying. So that's probably the reason I missed it. Wow, that's nuts.
Can you be specific?
I guess Charlie didn't notice either. Wow. Okay, so... she thought that was... okay, that makes sense. I'm glad I went to the comments to figure that out. So she thought that would fluster them, and it failed. And that's the reason she just appeared even more incompetent in that moment.
I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. But, this...
Whoa. That was bizarre.
Can you be...
okay, so she says she's nervous.
Specific?
I'm sorry, I'm very nervous.
Dude, the left actually induces mental illness. Of course, it's expected... Look, it takes a very rare type of person to go into a crowd of people that are more put together than you in virtually every domain, both men and women, because there's a blonde girl that's next to her, same age, same geographical location, but her mind is light years more put together. And then to narcissistically insult everyone there, demonstrate incompetence, not be able to articulate an argument, then accuse the person who is there engaging with arguments for hours at a time nonstop of not engaging with arguments, and then to reduce yourself to flash. I mean, that is, I mean, you add the element of sexual perversion. Wow. Guys, when I say that the left ravages the minds of women, wrecks them, this is not a game. Women are actually being destroyed. Their lives are being destroyed in real time because the leftist ideology is so anti-human. Its presuppositional basis is so bad, meaning that the subcomponent ideas that make up their full ideology are so wrong, they're so incongruent with reality that it destroys their mind. To believe false things, you have to break down a lot of logical, coherent systems that you've built up over the course of your life to believe false things. And to tell yourself false things in a row, you have to destroy yourself. You have to do damage. It's the reason why so many leftists experience anxiety, because they are believing false things such as the only thing that exists between people is power disparities, that victimhood means you're a good person, that capitalism is bad, that women are oppressed, list goes on. But only a person that is truly submerged in that soup of mental depravity is what it is. Could you get to a place like this where you're going to expose yourself literally in front of people? Again, that start, though, of her trying to go the emotional route and then getting owned with him saying you're literally surrounded by people that are pro-Trump is incredible, because I think there you see manifested the position by the left in her facial expressions and demeanor, that she doesn't view the people around her as her equal, despite her being worse than them in every measurable way besides her soul. Because only God can judge that, right?
Who are you?
Well, important enough for you to come up to a microphone.
I'll full screen that so we can really just look at her face.
Actually, when I first saw this,
I mean, it looks like a soccer mom, Karen, that is unable to engage with reality, right? And gets easily triggered. She's at the front of the line of the bakery, and then, you know, the piece of bread that she got, something wasn't to her liking. She just starts freaking out and assuming that the person behind the cash register has some sort of vendetta against her. Everyone in the coffee shop is just sort of looking over awkwardly, like, what is this woman doing? But this was ideologically created, though.
ad, I thought it was like an improv comedy thing. It looked so ridiculous.
Bro, she tries to tear it down, and yet she's surrounded by people that are literally filming her talking to him. Think about it.
I didn't even
think about the irony, right?
think it was real.
You didn't even think it was real, and you're talking into a microphone right now to him being filmed and exposed. Oh, it's brutal.
Well, no, you could see. Look how popular Trump is on your campus. How does that make you feel?
Literally surrounded by MAGA hats. So either she's not here seriously, which, you know, she decided to walk up, so on some level she decided that she should be here. But what I think is the more likely actuality is that she's actually just experiencing a psychological break from reality, combined with viewing any person who is not part of her ideological cult as a bad person, which is the reason why she is laughing while being mocked and scorned by hundreds of people around her who are there proving that her cult is invalid and fraudulent.
That's not comedy. That is a 5-alarm fire for Kamala.
I'm gonna play that again because that was the best part of the video in my opinion.
Look how popular Trump is on your campus. How does that make you feel?
Watching her respond to the words, "Look how popular Trump is on your campus," and then a bunch of people in MAGA hats cheering, both men and women, including women that are hotter than her, is fantastic.
That's not comedy. That is a 5-alarm fire.
Now, I've said a lot exposing the inner workings of the left-wing ideology, but I think I'll end it on one more important detail, which is the reason why the left tries to avoid debate and dialogue is because they know this is a very likely outcome, given that they've intellectually crippled basically every single constituent that they have. They know that when asked to engage in objectivism, they embarrass themselves, and this is the outcome. This is the reason why they're not interested in ideas and only in demonizing people and claiming the counterfeit moral high ground. But now that we can speak freely on the internet using X, and basically every other platform is held to a certain standard given the fact that ultimately people can go to X, means that we can call out their fraudulence and are no longer afraid of their fake moral positions. Because this girl is self-evidently incompetent. This girl is self-evidently immoral. This girl is self-evidently low IQ. This girl is self-evidently not mentally well. And so we don't have to cede any position of authority to her, despite the fact that she thinks she deserves one as she tries to interrupt a literal billionaire. Guys, be sure to subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think of my analysis down below.